Yo, what's going on, guys? So today is Monday, so basically day 3 of the league. So I decided to give you an update on my build, how things are going for me, and my plans for the next few days. So first, how did the campaign go for me? So game is obviously much harder. I did struggle a bit, but I was able to finish the campaign in 4.5 hours. And I actually was pretty lucky. Somewhere in Act 3 I dropped something, I don't remember what, I think it was a jewel that I sold for 1C, and I was able to buy a quill rain for it. So from that point I had a pretty good weapon, so I wasn't really struggling by that much. And after I finished the campaign I started doing chaos recipe and progressing my map atlas a little bit by doing the leapfrog strategy. So after some time I was able to buy tabula rasa, and just with tabula and quill rain I was progressing my atlas up until I hit red maps and I actually started struggling. So the build definitely feels the nerfs, and you still can make it work, but you will need a little bit of an investment. So most of the people ask me how mana feels after the nerfs, and to be honest, if you are Pathfinder, just mana flask is good enough. Probably even without being a Pathfinder, but definitely the flask effectiveness from the ascendancy and from the tree, like here, here, and here, feels pretty nice. And if you even want to, you can choose these two mana nodes. But when I was using quill rain, I was using these nodes, but after I swapped into this bow, I am no longer using it because it is a bit slower. So when I reached the red maps, when I was struggling, I decided to make some currency doing some kind of strategy. So I decided to farm tier 1 blighted maps. And if you want to see how that strategy works, I just made a video about it, so you can check it out. So doing this strategy, I made a lot of currency. I did it for like 15 hours probably. So I was able to buy this bow. I bought it for 3 exalts and it was crafted already. But you probably can buy it cheaper and craft it yourself. It's with corroded and metallic fossils, and you need around 5 tries to be able to get +1 and +2, and you just craft chaos damage over time multi. And you, as the base, you only care about attack speed, so you want at least 1.45 attack speed, but 1.5 would be the best, but obviously it's gonna be a bit more expensive. So I bought this, and then I swapped my tabula to carcass jack. And it doesn't need to be 6 link, I only need 1 6 link. You could technically use caustic arrow as a second 6 link, but I don't really feel like I need it. So the second item I bought is chaos damage over time multiplier gloves and quiver, ring with despair curse, and I also dropped this actually in a blighted map. So it dropped with life and resistances, and I was able to unveil it because it was veiled, and I unveiled the onslaught with movement speed. So it is actually a pretty good item, especially since onslaught is pretty hard to get nowadays. And I also bought a dying sun, and to be honest, after the nerfs, dying sun still feels pretty nice. The duration is reduced and charges used are increased, but because we are a Pathfinder, when you are mapping, you don't really feel like it. It feels definitely the same. Only for bossing it is pretty much nerfed. And also I have 50% flask effectiveness overall in my tree with Conqueror potency. So instead of 2 projectiles, my dying sun gives me 3. The next item I bought was Thread of Hope and Elegant Hubris. Elegant Hubris just so I don't need some attributes, just some quality of life, and Thread of Hope for these passive points. Early on I bought this cluster jewel setup, so I bought this with 2 passives, and I was able to regal the third one, so I only cared about Touch of Cruelty. The other ones are okay, but you don't really need them. And I think this is actually a little bit better than the Tempered Arrowheads cluster jewel. So Touch of Cruelty gives you 10% pretty much more chaos damage, which is pretty nice, and Hinder also is pretty nice for Toxic Rain, because you don't want your enemies move out of your Toxic Rain, so reducing their movement speed is actually really nice. Unholy Grace, attack speed is really good for Toxic Rain, so it feels pretty nice. And this is just something extra, you don't really need it, just 30% chaos damage. For medium cluster jewels, Wicked Pole is definitely the best one right now on chaos damage over time multiplier jewel. And second one doesn't really matter that much, I just got some increased damage over time multi, just normal damage over time, not multi. And the second one I have Brush with Death because I wanted 1% life on kill. It has a little bit with sustain and some chaos damage. Preferably I would have one Wicked Pole and Brush with Death, and on second one a Wicked Pole and something else. For the small one I just have Phasing on kill, Conqueror potency, and Blind on hit. So that's it in terms of passive tree and gear. I think my next upgrade would be Helmet with Toxic Rain, enchant +1 arrows. I still need level 25 Toxic Rain. I need Empower gem level 4, but Empower is really expensive. Then I would get probably +1 Chaos Gem Amulet and minus mana cost crafts on my rings. And I also need Hunter based Stygian Vice with percentage life and flat life. So that's pretty much it in terms of character. So at that point I stopped doing Blighted maps. I think that amount of gear is good enough. I still have quite a lot of currency. I still have to sell them. I did few red Blighted maps. I got some maps from them. And I also was wondering how Simulacrums are gonna go for me with this build. So I also bought a Zerfis Heart. And I tried Simulacrum. Simulacrum is actually pretty cheap right now. You can buy it for 1.2 exalt. I bought it actually just for 1 exalt. And how it went for me? Well, I wasn't able to do wave 20 and I died quite a lot during waves 17, 18 and 19. So I only had one portal left when I reached wave 20 and I failed it pretty much instantly. So you definitely feel the nerfs and it's pretty hard. Zerfis Heart is almost unusable. You get so much attack speed that it doesn't really matter. Your mana just get chunked so much. You definitely feel it. And if you would use Empower, you would feel it even more. But you can get some increased quality on your mana flask. I could get these mana nodes. I probably could get some more mana regen, but I think this version of the build might actually be dead. I've read that they plan to reverse some of the mana nerfs, so maybe in the future it will be easier, but I think at that point I would just use normal chaos damage amulet chaos with chaos skills gems +1 and chaos damage over time multi. So even though I failed wave 20 Simulacrum, I still gained a lot of currency. Like with the price of 1 exalt for Simulacrum, I pretty much can't lose currency doing it, even with some pretty bad build. Just one wave 15, I think, dropped me 5 or 6 tier 14 maps, which basically just these maps paid for Simulacrums. So everything else was just profit. Overall, I dropped in total 350 chaos. So like 280 chaos profit from Simulacrum, just 19 waves, and the last few waves I only got like 3, maybe 4 rows of the rewards. So even with pretty bad build, even if you are struggling, Simulacrums are still pretty good to make currency. I didn't even drop anything rare. I didn't drop any uniques, no 6 link, no like level 21 gems, nothing. So it is pretty solid profit. But I actually don't really want to do it, so right now I actually came back to progressing my Atlas. So I'm progressing my awakening bonus. I want to have 164 awakening bonus and start farming haywork for harvest. I was able to kill Awakener level 5 pretty easily, to be honest. Still not level 8, but I think with current gear I will be able to finish my whole Atlas, maybe even kill some Maven invitations. So if you want to see how am I gonna progress, you can watch my stream Zen M. I'm gonna start the stream soon, and see you there.